Well, back in the 1990s, we were your typical American family. Two boys, went to church every Sunday. We just were going to church every Sunday thinking we were doing what God wanted us to. Like I said, your typical American family, we had a lot of debt. Even though Bob had a good job, he worked hard. I had a successful business. I was working in financial services part-time. We still couldn't make ends meet, and we just struggled. We began to attend a non-denominational church. We had a nice home back then, and I had a successful business. I had beautiful children that were thriving. I had a husband that worked hard and had a good job. There was still an emptiness inside of me that I'd had a long time, and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why I had this. For years, like so many people, I tried to fill it with materialism, thinking that if I bought this or had this, then that would fill up that empty feeling. When I started learning more about Jesus and who he was, instead of just knowing about him, but beginning to know him, I found that emptiness was just totally filled up.
I was along for the ride. I had not honestly given total buy-in at that point. And then I had a major event happen in my life in 2004. Walking across the street in Pittsburgh, and a car hit me going a little over 40 miles an hour. Put me through the windshield, but what was remarkable about all that, I never had a broken bone in my legs. My glasses did not even break when I went through the windshield. Not a cut on my head when I went through the windshield. Basically, the medics told me that normally internal injuries, most people don't survive a hit like that. And I emerged from that accident a true believer.
When we first learned about tithing, and we thought, there's no way we can do this, because up to that point, we were really giving God, well, in the church it was called offerings, but basically we were giving God our leftovers. We paid everything else, and if there was anything left over, then we would give it to God. Well, then when we found out about tithing, we thought, oh my goodness, how are we ever going to be able to do this? But we believed, that God was speaking to us to do that. We take people at their word, and so we took God at his word. That, in Malachi, he said, I'll pour out my blessings on you. And so we took him at his word. And all of a sudden, things started happening. The bills started getting paid.
When we started tithing and things were riding the ship, per se, we made a concerted effort there not to use credit cards and to stay out of debt. And that's always a challenge, but we set a budget up, stuck to the budget, and that was just a blessing, along with God's blessing.
Then in 1996, was it 97? We knew we were going to have to move from Holly Springs, where we lived. We had a 25-acre farm there, and as everybody knows, Wake County has developed incredibly, and we were just getting enclosed. But we didn't know it was going to take 4 years to sell our farm. We had 2 boys in private school that had braces and sports and all this other stuff, that kids get involved in. And so we had the bridge loan for this farm.
During the time period when the horse boarding operation had to be shut down and that income that Peggy was generating was gone, we had to do something at that point. And I had always dabbled along with Peggy in antiques, so we prayed to God that maybe that would be a way to get income. And up until that time, we would have a little overgrown yard sale maybe once or twice a year in the hay barn. And so we started having more regular sales. And these were critical because we would have economic needs, bills that had to be paid. And we would pray often to be able to generate enough money to pay a specific amount. And more times than not, we would have sales that would generate the money that was needed almost to the dollar. And the antique business continued on, and even after our farm was finally sold and we relocated to Pittsburgh. And once again, we tithe off the antique business as well as our own retirement incomes.
On paper, we really should have crashed and burned because there was no way in the natural that we could have continued on during those 4 years. But God got us through, even though it's been 16 years. We have this beautiful home. We have a bigger farm. It's just so much different, and everything's paid for. Every bit of it's paid for. We learned that no matter what, if you trust God with your finances, He's going to bring you through. If you are faithful to Him, He will always be faithful to you.
We've tried to be faithful to Him and just enjoyed life.